Mic check, y'all. Let's get this back started. Why Alex O'Connor smashes Christians every single time. We had a little technical difficulties on the last stream here, but we are back. Let me know if my audio and visual is good, y'all. It was something as simple. It was something as simple as I muted my computer. It wasn't any technical difficulties. It was something as simple as me muting my computer. Oh my God. I just... Yeah, I feel very, very clownish. I feel like a clown. Yeah, we was rocking and rolling, y'all. We was rocking and rolling, but you know, we're back and let's get straight into it. Why Alex O'Connor smashes Christians every time? Because Christianity is indeed a fallacious white supremacist cult full of man-made traditions and paganism, mixed in with a little bit of truth, and we stand on that. It is what it is. Christianity, you guys had a 2,000-year run. It's over. So, Alex O'Connor versus David Wood. I'm going right to the what you call rapid fire rounds or cross-examination. All right. So, let's get started.
As part of it is, if he's going to be the ideal, I don't need time and divine being. The old
authorities, whatever you like.
Let's do it. Open dialogue. Who would like to take the lead?
Well, I have some questions, perhaps, to ask David about his position on Jesus' relationship to the Father, with particular regards to the authority that he derives from the Father. So, one question, for example. Why do you think that Jesus prays before raising Lazarus from the dead?
Dagger, drop a bomb. That's already a dagger. David Wood looks down at his computer, hoping that God Logic or Sam Shimon is texting him an answer. He doesn't get it in time. Neither can God Logic or Sam Shimon answer this adequately either.
The Old Testament says that God is the God of all flesh. If a divine being were to become incarnate, as is claimed of Jesus, and that divine being really became a flesh and blood human being like Jesus, then if he's also had an eternal relationship with the Father, then I don't know if I'd expect him to be an atheist when he entered into creation. So in other words, if the Christian picture is correct, you've got Father and Son for all eternity. Son enters into creation. What's he going to be, an atheist? If he is going to, as part of it is, if he's going to be the ideal human or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
the Son of Man, one might say.
The question isn't why Jesus prays. The question is why Jesus prays before he does miracles. And the answer is very simple. Because he can't do nothing independent of the Father. And if he's dependent on the Father, then he is not the Almighty. It's just period.
As far as what Jesus is going to do, you would.
The Father doesn't need to pray to the Son before he does a miracle. The Son needs to pray and ask the Father for the power to do that miracle, proving he's not omnipotent, proving he's not equal to the Father, therefore destroying the Trinity in just one little silly question. Remember that, brothers and sisters. Always ask a Christian why Jesus says he prays to the Father before every miracle.
Continue the eternal relationship that you've had with the Father And you would do that through prayer. So,
What I mean to say is, could Jesus have risen Lazarus from the dead of his own accord, on his own authority?
I suppose, yeah.
I suppose.
He said all authority has been given to him.
It's
So.
been given to him by God, right? Which the way that I read that is that the Father has delegated the
it's
authority
crazy
that is
work.
rightfully his to Jesus. And it's often said to me that Jesus raising people from the dead of his own authority is actually an indication of his divinity. Because we have Old Testament passages of people raising people from the dead, like Elijah and Elisha. And the point is always made that, well, they pray before they rise from the dead. Jesus doesn't pray. But before he raises Lazarus in John chapter 11, he looks upward and says, Father, I thank you for having heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so they may believe that you have sent me. And when he says this, he cries out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. So Jesus is not only praying before raising Lazarus, but also saying that I always do this. It's just I'm doing it right now publicly, so there's no confusion that you're the one who sent me to do this. And so, even in instances where Jesus appears to perform miracles of his own accord, such as calming the storm, or indeed raising other people from the dead, like the widow's child, he tells us here in John's Gospel that he always is in communication with God beforehand, but right now he's saying so publicly, so that people will know that he sent him. Why does Jesus need to pray before he raises Lazarus from the dead?
I mean, this is the exact same chapter where Jesus.
This is so crazy because he's destroying this Christian apologist, David Wood, Vocab Malone's best friend. He's doing it so nonchalantly and subtly and just so politely with this British accent. Why would Jesus have to pray? I would have been dog walking him, being kind of condescending. You know, you gotta show that fierceness against these Christians a lot of times. But he's just dog walking him so politely. And David Wood is just walking into the Ziploc bag gladly, not even knowing.
Jesus declares himself
Dead.
I mean, this is the exact same chapter where Jesus declares himself the resurrection and the life.
That's right.
And it's in the same book where Jesus says that he's the one who raises the dead at the resurrection. Everyone who's in their graves will hear the voice of the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so if you're thinking that when we talk about Jesus, we're thinking of him as some rogue deity who does things on his own. I mean, that's basically the entire meaning of.
That's a dagger. How is he the Most High God and he can't do something on his own? You just said that. You just said that, my man. How is he the Most High God and he can't do nothing on his own? You just said that.
God.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so if you're thinking that when we talk about Jesus, we're thinking of him as some rogue deity who does things on his own. I mean, that's basically the entire meaning of John chapter 5. John chapter 5 is basically one response to this. Jesus heals on the Sabbath. And this freaks him out because they say, hey, what are you doing? He says, well, the Father's working until now, I'm working too.
Yeah.
And so since the Father's working, I get to work. You all don't get to work, I get to work. And then they accuse him of claiming to be equal to God. And then
This is such a dagger. He's trying to say that because he's basically saying Jesus broke the Sabbath, but it would be a sin to break the Sabbath. And the Bible says Jesus was without sin. He was made under the law, so he was not above the law. So he couldn't override the law. Not only that, his disciples were picking corn too. So if David Wood and other silly Christians are going to say Jesus broke the Sabbath by picking corn, but he did that because he was the Lord of the Sabbath and he overrode it, for one, you're contradicting the Bible because it said he was without sin. And for two, it says his disciples did the exact same thing. So are they now God? And do they now can override the law?
You liar!
Oh, man. In Christ.
he explains it. That it's a verse that Muslims use. They say, he says, by my own self I can do nothing. But if you look at what he's saying, it's I can do nothing separately from the Father. But that's the same chapter where he claims that he's the final judge, where he claims...
Oh my God, this is horrible. This is horrible. Christians, are we going to be honest here? He just said that when Christ said I can do nothing on my own but by the Father, he's saying you can't be the Most High God if you are dependent on another entity. You cannot be the Most High if you are dependent, period. You're not self-dependent. You cannot be the Most High God. So Christians are in a trick bag. If you want to say he's independent, then we have two gods. You're done. If you want to say he's dependent, he's not the Most High. You're done. You're in a trick bag either way. Big dog. Oh my goodness. I can't believe
claims that he's the one who raises the dead.
I just can't believe this, man. This is crazy.
Explains it, that claiming to be equal to God. And then he explains it, that it's a verse that Muslims use. They say, he says, by my own self I can do nothing. But if you look at what he's saying, it's I can do nothing separately from the Father. But that's the same chapter where he claims that he's the final judge, where he claims that he's the one who raises the dead at the resurrection. And he explains it and says, for the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. The only way you'd honor the Son the same way you honor the Father is if they have the same nature and attributes. You wouldn't honor anyone else like you honor God.
Interesting. Do you believe
so
that
Jesus is saying that the reason he's the one who judges everything is so that we honor him the same way we honor the Father. That sounds...
Do you believe that the Father has a distinct loving relationship to the Son compared to the loving relationship he has to all of us, say?
Yep.
Only because I've heard you make this point before, that he says that it's that word "as" is quite important, what you just said, so that he will honor, so that they will honor me just as they honor the Father. That word "just as" is kathos, which I mentioned earlier. That's also used when Jesus says, so they will know that you have loved me just as you have loved them.
Ooh.
So,
sheesh.
Sometimes you gotta pop out and show me.
Sheesh. Oh. That was nasty work. That was nasty work right there, Alex. Keep learning from the Israelites and you're going to keep doing well. You'll go far in this debate world against these Christians. Now, Christians say, when it says honor the Son as you honor the Father, that means you're supposed to have equal religious devotion to them. Alex is pointing out in John 17, Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, asked the Father, love them as you have loved me. So if we're going to keep that same logic, then we're monogonales theos. What does that mean? The Bible calls the Son the unique Son or unique deity in certain Greek translations, ancient manuscripts. That means we can apply that too if we want to entertain and run that logic. Stitched up. David Woods getting cut up and he's cutting him, and it's so polite. He's cutting him and stitching him at the same time. I'm going to just slice you here. Let me stitch you up. I'm going to slice you here, stitch you up, slice you here, get you a Band-Aid, get you some balm. Oh, man. Hold this L, David.
If we're going to be consistent in our usage of the term here, if Jesus is saying that they will honor you that they'll honor me just as you honor the Father, then the loving relationship has to be treated in the same way, right?
Well, I think you can say, I'm trying to think. If you say that, I can say, I love this person just as I love my wife. And yeah, you'd be right. I could say, well, I just mean I love both of them, but not in the, that wouldn't necessarily be saying I love that person exactly as I love
But that's why
my
there are
wife.
two words in the Greek. That's why there's like the word for as.
No, I'm fine there. I'm talking about, you have to interpret words in context.
Yeah.
And what's the context of this? It's Jesus.
I want you guys to notice how David is going on diatribes, filibustering, and saying a whole bunch of nothing and Alex is just letting him. But David is overpowering this open discussion. And Ruslan is a Christian. He's supposed to be a moderator. He doesn't even care. He's not saying nothing about it.
Jesus claims that since the Father's working, he's working also. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the discussion among the rabbis was,
does God work on the Sabbath?
Does God work on the Sabbath?
Yeah.
And so Jesus is working. So God works on the Sabbath because he's upholding and sustaining the universe. Therefore, I get to work on the Sabbath as well. And then, hey, you're claiming to be they think he's claiming to be another God. And he clarifies, no, by myself I can do nothing. He points this out, and in this context, he's the final judge. And so you will honor the Son just as you honor the Father. There, in context, it would be very strange to say, well, I just mean honor me in some sense, like you honor the Father, but not in that way. The Old Testament, Yahweh's the one who sets up his throne to judge. Jesus is the one who says all judgment is given to him.
Given, yeah.
Yeah. And so if all judgment is given to him, and keep in mind, the Old Testament says Yahweh is the one who's going to judge. And you're saying, yeah, but it's given to Jesus.
Yeah.
And
that's just like a king saying his son, who's the prince, is going to judge. That doesn't mean the prince is the king. This is very rudimentary right here.
He says it's so that we honor him the same way we...
And then what does 1 Corinthians 15 say, everybody? 1 Corinthians 15, what does that say, everybody? What does it say? It says that the Messiah is going to give the kingdom back to the Father after everything is put under his feet. So who's really doing the judging? Dagger.
We honor the Father.
Yeah, okay, so I want to talk about this Sabbath moment because this is quite important. This is in John chapter 5 as well. This whole episode sort of hinges on the idea that Jesus is working on the Sabbath. He says, my Father is working, so am I. So your interpretation of this is to say that, well, my Father in heaven, that is God, is working on the Sabbath, so am I, therefore I'm God. This story of Jesus working on the Sabbath is reported in multiple Gospels. In Mark's Gospel, when he's found working on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees say to him, this is Mark chapter 2, look, why are they doing that? It's that which is not lawful on the Sabbath. What does Jesus say in response? Have you not heard what David did? Have you not read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food? And they enter the house of God and take the food which is not lawful on the Sabbath. So Jesus justifies his breaking of the Sabbath by referring to another human being who also broke the Sabbath. He then tells us that the Sabbath was made for mankind and not mankind for the Sabbath.
He is walking David down. He just said, just like David broke the Sabbath, Christ broke the Sabbath. David Wood is not saying, no, Christ didn't break the Sabbath. That would mean he committed a sin. Oh, I feel bad. I'm not even happy at this point that Christianity is getting destroyed like this. I feel bad and humiliated because I'm familiar with David Wood. He comes to camps. He came to the camp when we were in our previous camp with Vocab, and he came with Vocab and What Do You Mean, and Anthony Rogers and Sam Shimon, and also what's that black man with no backbone? That soft black man. What's his name again? Andrew Coleman, I think it is. Excuse me. From down there on Cocoon County. Yeah, so I'm familiar with David Wood. We call him Hammer Man. He knows why we call him Hammer Man. Just what he did to his dad. You know what certain white folk do to their parents is crazy. Yeah, but he's Hammer Man. Y'all ask him what he did to his dad and why we call him Hammer Man. But anyway, I feel kind of bad for David, even though he's Hammer Man. How does a Christian apologist sit up here and agree with an atheist that Jesus broke the Sabbath when he's supposed to be the pure lamb without blemish in order to be the sacrifice for humanity, right? Right, Thor. Thor.
Famous quote.
Also, y'all, the super chat button does work. Make sure you like, share, and super chat. Support the ministry. We greatly appreciate y'all. Keep the channel going. Keep the ministry going. Keep this new camp building. We are focused. Remember, y'all, we just did almost 100 videos in a week. We're about to flood the internet. No, we're not going to flood it. We're going to space them out, but we'll put it all on Patreon for sure. We don't want to clutter the channels, so be looking out for those, y'all. We got videos to all the way out to August, darn near mid-August. All right, so all praises. Keep doing the work of the Lord. Feed the sheep. Feed the sheep. Stay out of the way. Feed the sheep. Stay out of the way. Don't mislead the sheep. Feed the sheep. Let's keep going.
The Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Bearing in mind that although
The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.
Yes, bear in mind that although in the Greek the definite article is given to Jesus when he uses the term Son of Man, it's complicated by the fact that Son of Man without the definite article is just a way of saying human being. So there are some scholars such as Morris Casey who believe that these Son of Man sayings have been corrupted, at least some of them, from originally saying a son of man, or the Son of Man in the sense of just meaning a human being. Now, why would that interpretation be correct here? Because Jesus says, firstly, when he's accused of breaking the Sabbath, he says, well, David did the same thing.
For the record, I do believe, Genesis believes, and I think I can speak for most of the camps and most of our community, that he is the Son of God. There's nothing wrong with that. He's the Son of Man, of course, but he's the Son of God. How can he be both if you don't believe in the hypostatic union? How can he be the Son of Man and the Son of God and you not believe in the hypostatic union? Let me explain that for you guys. The hypostatic union is when the doctrine that Christ is fully man and fully God. We don't believe that. Because if he's fully man and fully God, which nature overpowers the other? The hypostatic union says they unify in harmony. But if they unify in harmony, why does Christianity teach he was limited by the flesh? Drop a bomb.
Don't ask. I said, don't ask. I said, don't ask.
So we believe he's the Son of Man because he came as a human being through Joseph and Mary. But we also believe he's the Son of God because he pre-existed his incarnation as being the first spirit creature that the Most High created. And this is all proven in the Bible. So that's why we believe the term Son of Man can be applied to the Messiah and Son of God as well. Let's keep going. Somebody said, was David a king? Yes, David was a king.
Was David sinning? The implication is no, which means it can't just be God who breaks the Sabbath. He then says that the Sabbath was made for man, humans, not humans or man for the Sabbath. Therefore, he says, the word is therefore, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. If the Son of Man in some context just means a human being, that's how early church fathers interpreted it, for example. In fact, some of the early church fathers translated the Son of Man as the Son of Mary, because they thought it was Jesus indicating that he was the son of a human being and he was only born of Mary. Given that undertone for this phrase, the Son of Man, how else can I read this passage except Jesus saying, yeah, I'm working on the Sabbath, so did David, and that wasn't wrong. The Sabbath was made for mankind, therefore mankind is Lord of the Sabbath. If it's only God who can work on the Sabbath, then why does Jesus appeal to David?
You're talking about two completely different passages. You're talking about this situation, and Jesus, I was talking to a Jewish guy in Israel, and he's not a Christian.
Let me address my focus to the chat real quick. Somebody says, if David was wrong about what he was doing, he would have been stoned. Well, not necessarily, because like the brother said, he was king, so he wouldn't have been stoned, but there could have been a judgment pronounced on him because he still got judged even though he wasn't stoned, King David. So a king can still receive the judgment and the rebuke from the prophets and the priests, although they might not be able to stone him. So, so the case with David, that's just an example that, let's say you're on the brink of dying, like King David and them were, and you had to eat the bread that only the Levite priests were supposed to bake and leave out there. Is there going to be a penalty for that? So this shows you in that case that the law sometimes isn't just black and white, but it's case by case sensitive. Somebody said talk to the mic. You guys can't hear me? How's my audio? How is my audio? It sounds okay to me. Video is loud, but your mic is low. I don't know why it's like that. I don't know why the video is loud, but my mic is low. To be honest with you guys, this is a recording, a music recording microphone. I really need a streaming microphone, but we'll get to there, Lord willing. All right, so let's keep going.
But he said, hey, Jesus' way won. Jesus' way actually won.
Jesus,
the way of Jesus won.
Oh, sure.
He viewed Jesus as like a religious reformer sent against religious extremism and so on. There, Jesus talking about like preserving life and so on. The accusation in John 5 is different, but I'm pointing to John because you're going with John.
Yep.
In John 5, he says the Father's working, and so he gets to work too.
That's right.
And again, if you read this, there's no way to interpret this as Jesus claiming to be some, just another human being or something like that.
Well, I don't think Jesus is claiming to be just another human being. But although we are talking about two different passages here, if the reason that Jesus gives, because bear in mind, there are multiple ways to interpret this. When he says, well, God's working, so why not I? There are multiple ways to interpret this. Either Jesus is, again, quite explicitly claiming to be God, which again is quite mystifying given that this doesn't seem to provoke the same kind of reaction. If it's well recognized that God is the Lord of the Sabbath and Jesus is claiming himself as a title, the Son of Man, to be the Lord of the Sabbath, or in this instance, just claiming the authority because God is working, so am I, it's strange that it doesn't cause the same kind of fuss. But the other interpretation is that Jesus is saying, well, if God can work on the Sabbath, why not anybody else? If God can work, why not me? And that just doesn't, your interpretation just doesn't square with me with Mark's gospel. I mean, the question I asked was, why does he refer to David in justifying his working on the Sabbath?
We're talking about John.
Yes.
You can have different reasons for doing things in different situations. I mean, as far as John, so Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders began to persecute him. In his defense, Jesus said to them, my Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. For this reason, they tried all the more to kill him, not only because he was breaking the Sabbath, but was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God. With God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, bro. What translation was that? Is there any Christians in here? I don't even want to battle you guys right now. I just really want to ask. He just read a Bible translation that said, he just read a Bible translation that says Jesus broke the Sabbath. Breaking the Sabbath is a sin. The Bible says, other Bible verses says, Jesus the Messiah was sinless and did not commit no sins, meaning he did not break any laws. This is what you guys get for, watch this, let me see. I'm gonna find out which translation that was. So the NIV, How did he just word that? Hold on.
Yes.
And so his own reason they tried was always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. For this reason they tried all the more to kill him, not only because he was breaking the Sabbath, but was even calling God his own Father.
So that's not Christ speaking there. That's not even a Pharisee speaking there. That's whoever the author of that particular gospel is. Let me hold on.
More to kill him, not only because he was breaking the Sabbath, but
Okay, so we're in John 5:18. Let me know if you guys can see the screen. Let me see. Okay, so you guys can see this. So look at. Okay, so John. So apparently this is not good. This is not good at all, brothers and sisters. This is why you got to do comparative translations, and you got to refer to the ancient manuscripts. For this reason, they tried. So this is John speaking here, the author. The author is speaking. He's saying, for this reason, they tried all the more to kill him. Not only because he was breaking the Sabbath. Wow. So, okay, hold on. Oh, this is bad. Okay. Yeah, this is every translation. This is not good. This is not good. Now, you could attempt to clean this up by saying, well, they thought he was breaking the Sabbath, which is true, but you can't. So contextually, you look at it, you have to conclude that he couldn't have broke the Sabbath or he committed a sin. So you would have to say contextually is talking about how they believe he broke the Sabbath. Not that the author, John, one of the 12 disciples, said that Christ actually broke the Sabbath. That would be horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Let's go back here.
was even calling God his own Father, making himself
him
equal
to God.
with God.
Yes.
And so that's when Jesus goes, and if he's trying to say something about it's okay to break the Sabbath, or you don't have to work on the Sabbath anymore, or something like that, it's a strange direction to go in that he makes all these claims. He can do only what the Father sees, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he is pleased to give it. Mm-hmm. The Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father. And that's when he goes on to say that he's the one who raises the dead. Time is coming and has now come when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son also to have life in himself. And he has given him authority to judge because he is the Son of Man. And then he goes on to say that the dead are going to be raised. My point is zeroing in on one little point and saying, maybe this is just, you're missing kind of the big picture. This is...
But I'm noticing the words granted and given or authority there. This idea that Jesus raises the dead is not exactly clear in John chapter 5. Like if we look at the words that we're actually dealing with here, the Father judges no one but has entrusted all judgment to the Son. Presumably the Father could judge if he wanted to. He's made a decision to entrust this to the Son, meaning that the Son doesn't have this power necessarily. If the Son has this power necessarily, it's not something that needs to be entrusted to him in the way that the Father then would not have it.
Why, if he's the Most High, why, if the Messiah is the Most High, does he need to be given anything? He should already possess what we call all the divine attributes. He should already possess all the divine attributes. Make sure y'all get ready for this debate we got coming up too. Who's seen that debate me and Hassad got coming up with that guy from TikTok? Everybody been telling me about the guy from TikTok. What's his name? Debunking Hebrew Israelites. His name is Dwayne. We have a debate coming up with these guys here. There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
Beat him down, beat you down. Who else wants some?
Yeah.
Break it up! Beat your ass and hide the body.
Now, we're looking forward to this one because he been on TikTok running amok. I'm looking forward to catching him.
You liar, your black mouth.
Yeah, we gonna get on him on everything. So this will be May 11th, and it'll be the new covenant. Has it been established yet? And is it only for Israel? So yeah, I'm surprised they took this. They're probably working on this right now. Like, I know a few apologists called them and was like, y'all should have took a different topic. But yeah, so make sure you guys are tuned in on JP Uncut's channel. He better do a better job moderating than he did for me when I debated Rabbi Eduardo. Or I'm going to debate you, JP.
He then says, "Very truly I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who has sent me has eternal life." And goes on to say that the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live.
Hear the voice of the Son of God.
Yeah. Now,
He's the Son of God, right? Jesus?
That's right.
You're agreeing that he's claiming to be the Son of God?
yeah, so they'll hear his voice and they'll be raised from the dead. But
Why is he acting like a point was made and punch was landed? He's claiming to be the Son of God. He is the Son of God. That's not a big deal. That's not him saying he's the Most High. What the punch did not land. I want you Israelites out there who are up and coming apologists to don't be afraid to admit, because the text does say that in John chapter 10, John 5, other places, that he is the Son of God. Now it also calls Adam the Son of God, I believe in Luke chapter 3. But he's a unique Son of God. I am not my father. I'm the son of my father. I am not my father. So that isn't a punch landed. So don't be afraid to concede or to agree on that point. It's not a big deal.
how do we, who is doing the raising here? And how do you know?
Wait, hold on. You guys see this face right here? Do you guys see this face right here? Let me zoom in. How can I zoom in? Okay, let's see, like this. I want you guys to see this. Incoming. Watch this.
How do we, who is doing the raising here? And how do you know?
Watch David Wood get left speechless. Who is raising the dead and how do you know? Lord in Christ.
And they'll be raised from the dead. But how do we, who is doing the raising here? And how do you know?
Oh, sheesh.
I'm not gay no more.
Drop a bomb for Alex. Oh my goodness. Churchianity. Churchianity. Bro, you got left. You got left, my boy. Phew.
Son of God, right? Jesus?
That's right.
You're agreeing that he's claiming to be the Son of God?
Yeah, so they'll hear his voice and they'll be raised from the dead. But how do we, who is doing the raising here? And how do you know?
You're saying we're going to hear, people are going to, you're saying,
Oh my God. I can't wait till May 11th. That's how I'm leaving, niggas. I can't wait till May 11th. Oh, and Albie. You guys remember Albie too, right? Albie. This guy, he's a Sam Shimon student. That's Albie right there. The Assyrian cat. I debated him a few years ago, cleaned him up through the spirit and power of the Most High. But that's the closest thing I'm going to get to Sam Shimon, because we offered Sam Shimon $1,000 and he won't even debate us. It says Control plus to zoom, then click percentage in the address bar. Man, that's way too much, bro. Control plus. Nah, this ain't the MacBook though. Let me see. Oh yeah, nah, this it's different though. It's like, oh, I get, yeah, but it's different though when I'm trying to do the Streamlabs deal here. Nah, it is. I'm not on Mac. I'm on Windows. That does work for me too, but it's different because you can zoom in on your browser, but then you can zoom in on this Streamlabs. So it's different. But yeah, I'm trying to leave somebody confounded like this. But the Christians been studying us, so I remember when they didn't have an answer for anything we was coming with. Y'all remember that back in 2016 to 21 when we were debating and just smashing everything on Facebook, debating YouTube, and when people were literally left speechless. Then they started studying us and they have an answer, albeit it's the wrong answer and it's inadequate. But I missed the days when, so we're coming fresh. We're coming fresh for this debate on May 11th, y'all. Set your reminders, May 11th.
Say it again. Say something else.
saying someone else is raising them
God.
when they hear the voice of the Son of God. So
That's
if they're
right.
dead, they're just bones. They hear the voice of the Son of God, and then someone else raises them.
For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son to also have life in himself.
Life in himself.
Yes, any power that Jesus has here is given to him by the Father.
Ooh.
Why is Jesus, if God, in need of being given this power
Oh my God.
by the Father?
I am dying inside. Sam Shimon might be afraid, he might not. But what's your reason for debating people lower than me, lower platforms than me, especially Kelly Powers, who also ran from me? What's your excuse? But I am dying inside to hear a Christian answer why, if Jesus is the Messiah, if the Messiah is the Most High, why does he have to be given life-giving power? Oh, I'm dying to hear this. I haven't watched this through all the way.
Why is Jesus, if God, in need of being given this power by the Father?
You have this is the exact same issue that you have in Daniel 7, where the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven approach.
Oh my goodness. And you know what, guys? I guess I'll still be waiting for the rest of my life because he didn't answer, and I really don't think he's going to either. Let me zoom out here. We'll be waiting for the rest of our lives, y'all, because he's not going to answer that, bro. Come on, man.
Approaches the Ancient of Days, and he is given authority, glory, and sovereign power. So it's why is he being given authority and glory and sovereign power?
Yeah.
But even before that, it's the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven.
Oh
That's how
my
he approaches. But again, it's Yahweh who comes with the clouds. So he's Yahweh, and then something happens, and then he's given.
Well, the Son of Man is Yahweh. Do you think that that was how Daniel 7 was interpreted by anybody before?
Daniel saw a vision.
That's
but
right.
This is one of the issues as far as this is one of the issues that comes up in the two powers in heaven.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, Yahweh is the only one who comes with the clouds in the Old Testament, and here you have the Son of Man who receives worship and so on, and is worshipped by all nations. But notice he approaches, and then he's given authority, glory, and sovereign power.
Mm-hmm.
But if you line that up with the Creed in Philippians, if you line that up with John 1 and so on, you get kind of a big picture. And you can take like John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, and then the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That's after all things are created through him. And you find the same thing in Philippians 2, early Christian creed. When it's in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant. So these are, you have someone who is in nature God over here, someone who is the Word, through whom all things are created,
Yes.
and then enters creation, and then lives as Jesus, dies. And I would interpret it, since you have the ending in Matthew, where
Look how long he's talking, and then Ruslan, this horrible moderator, doesn't even step in.
Jesus approaches and he's worshipped there, and he says that all authority in heaven and earth has been given to him. So the idea is he becomes a servant. He's in very nature God. He takes on the nature of a servant, and then he lives as a servant. And the irony of this statement where he says the Son of Man came not to
Extrapolation and interpolation without exegeting.
be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. The irony there is he's the Son of Man. He's supposed to be served by all, and he says that he came to serve. And so he's living as a servant during this life.
Sermon.
Then he dies. He rises from the dead.
There's a lot here, right?
Yeah.
I want to go right back, because we started with this idea of the Son of Man coming on the clouds, meaning that he's Yahweh. Do you think that's how Daniel interpreted his vision? Do you think that's
I believe Daniel saw a vision and recorded his vision.
Do you think that's how the Sanhedrin interpreted Daniel 7?
There you
when
go.
Jesus
Get
comes
him.
for his trial, and he says, and he quotes Daniel 7 and says that you'll see the Son of Man riding on the clouds of heaven. Do you think that the problem there was that Jesus was claiming to be God, and that's something that no human being can do? Because Daniel 7 is part of the Jewish scripture. They were expecting the coming of this Son of Man. So if it's obvious that the Son of Man was going to be Yahweh, then the Sanhedrin should have expected that the coming Son of Man would have been Yahweh.
Oh, Esau versus Esau. Esau versus Esau. Wow. Did the Israelites believe that Yahweh would be coming as the Messiah? That's what you got to ask these Christians. Did the Israelites of antiquity believe that Yahweh would be coming in as the Messiah? Where can we find that? It's a good question to ask. The moderator is like, man, this is bad. But man, who you guys give it to? Who took the L? Who took the W? Who you guys give it to? Did David Wood take the L or the W? Or did Alex O'Connor take the L or the W? All right, let's open it up for some questions before we get up out of here, y'all. I just wanted to play their open discussion / cross-examination. Or did they both take the L and we took the W? Because we've been saying this before Alex O'Connor even came on the scene. Whoa. Hey, Silverback Banana Scripts. He says David's wood got chopped. Hey, that's a pause, bro. That's a pause right there.
I'm not gay no more.
Yeah, you know, we gotta. There's a lot going on in the community, brother. We can't be talking like that. Any questions in the chat? Any questions in the chat? Any questions in the chat, y'all? All praises, honor, and glory.
They might have thought that Jesus wasn't him, but do you think that the Sanhedrin were expecting whoever the rightful Son of Man was, who was to come, would be identical to Yahweh? And if not, why did they not read that into the passage as obviously as you think that they should have done?
People were basically confused by these passages. That's the impression you get. They go in all sorts of different directions and, oh, this is referring to the Messiah. No, this is referring to some sort of angel. No, this is referring to this. No, I'm talking about what the text says. The Son of Man comes with the clouds of heaven. All before that, it's always Yahweh who comes on the clouds. And so...
Somebody said, can I get a source that says yes? Why do Christians say that passage Mark 14 means that Jesus claims he was God? 1 second. So, so for the brother that asked that question, Hawa and Jesus aren't the same person. Hawa, what do you mean by Hawa? For the brother that asked that question about certain Hamite tribes reclaiming their people after accidental capture, it wasn't a lot. There was a couple sources that I had. I can't find them just off of a quick search, but I can go into it. So I know another brother, which might be you, hit me about that a few days ago, but it was less common, but there was a few instances that I'll find. But the fact that it was less common show you that it was mostly us being wrapped up in that transatlantic captivity. All right, Matthew 1, and somebody says Matthew 1 and 17. When you look in the Greek manuscripts, I believe that's whom was born of Jesus, and that word for born is actually begat. Is that it? So, oh, what's your question on that? Oh, 14 generations, 14 generations, 14 generations. What's your question on Matthew 1 and 17? Mark 14. No, that's not his questions. Lama Allah, that's not his question. Mark 14. 14. What does it mean by 14 generations? Man to man. Like it could be man to man, or it could be lifespan to lifespan. So me and my son, 2 generations, or my lifetime, a generation, and then his whole lifetime, a generation. Let me see. 62. Mark 14 and 62. He said, and Jesus said, I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And the high priest tore his garments and said, what further proof is this? You hear this blasphemy. So he says, why do Christians use this passage to say Jesus is claiming to be God? I don't know, because it's saying he's the Son of God. The Son of God is not the Most High God. Any Christian going there to prove that is basically them committing their own suicide. Now, they do use the clouds of heaven because it says Yahweh comes with the clouds of heaven. They try to use that language, but it also says the Son of God comes with the clouds of heaven in Daniel chapter 7. So I would never let them get away with that. That's very easy. All right, y'all. So, couple announcements. We tried to do 100 videos in a week last week. That was crazy. So we uploaded a lot of them. They'll be coming out in a timely manner, spaced apart, probably all the way until August. There's going to be some on PTE Godcast and some on Priest Genesis mode. And then we're going to put all of them on Patreon. Crazy scholarship, academic reactions, commentaries, rebukes, all of it. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to try to go live once a week on PTE, and then put out a video here or 2 on PTE, and then go live once a week on Priest Genesis mode and put a video or 2 over there as well. So, hey, y'all, stay busy. We also got Bigot Pigs, Genesis Seattle, the Godcast, Deacon Tunes, so much. Hey, feed the sheep. Don't mislead the sheep. Feed the sheep. It says, what do you believe is the original language? What's your thoughts on the Lashuan Kodash, and how can we be sure it's the original language? Thanks. The fact that that's baby's first language is, if that's a baby's first language, then that's a baby's first thoughts. You understand that? Think about that concept. All right, y'all. So we'll pick back up here next week, Lord will. Let's end this by saying all praise to the Most High in the name of His Son. And if you don't know, now you know.